Right then, so hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be teaching you how to do one of my most popular videos, the James Hype routine mix. I'm going to take you everything from setting up in the software to actually performing the mix on one of your controllers. We're obviously again going to use the same controller I used in that video, which was the DJI-200. Very nice little setup we got here. Over to a speaker, but it's going to do for today's little video. So let's first start off by going into the software over here. So obviously in the software we need to set a bunch of different cue points throughout the songs so that we know where to mix. So obviously this song is comprised of One More Time and also Losing It. So let's do the One More Time song first, which is the song that I always put at the top, and we're going to set 3 cue points in this song. So if I play this song, obviously you will recognise that song, but we're going to go to a certain point in the song. So we're going to just go ahead a bit, we'll just mute that annoying sound. Then I'll go ahead to just before sort of the first major song. So I'm going to play it just here and I'll show you what I mean by the first major part of the song. So just before the One More Time part, okay, we're going to set a cue point just before the One More Time part. Now, that is going to allow us to basically not have to play the whole song first. Obviously, if you was doing this on a live situation, you may want to play that entire intro, but it's a pretty long intro to this song, so I generally skip it and just start it just before the One More Time. So that's my starting cue points. I generally put that as cue point A, as you can see there. Okay, so that's cue point A. That's our first cue point. We're now going to use our jog wheel, and we're going to scroll into the song a bit more to the next point. So the next point is actually sometimes where I start the mix, sometimes where I don't start the mix. So I either will start the mix on cue point A after that really long intro if I don't want to play the intro, or I'll start it on cue point B and I'll show you what cue point B looks like. It's coming out of a vocal part into a little instrumental part, which I'll just play here. I generally will start my mix through there, and that's what I did on the video that you saw. So that's going to be cue point B. Now our final cue point on One More Time is going to be the point where we actually start the 2-beat loop, okay? The 2-beat loop happens just here. So I'm going to play it a little bit before, and also you can obviously see on screen the exact point on the timeline. And then you repeat the oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That's the point that you will repeat right there. Now after it's set as a repeat cue, so if I was to need to just trigger it, I could just trigger it from the cue, or I could use the beat loop function.
Alrighty folks, it is me, the editor, future me here. Now I wanted to mention that you need to make sure that you're looping your 2-beat on that exact point, otherwise the mix won't work. So it's really important that you do that 2-beat loop. You can do it for however long you feel is right, but make sure it's always on that yeah part. Very important. Just thought I'd mention it. Saves me right in text. Don't forget to subscribe.
Okay then, so we've set our cue points for the One More Time from Daft Punk. We now set our Fisher Losing It cue points. So on my deck number 2, which is where I have Fisher's Losing It, we are going to set that up. So again, I don't use the first half of the song. In the original mix, you don't use the first half of the song. You will go straight to a certain point. I'm just going to hit play just so it doesn't. So we're going to head all the way over after the main verse 1. Now get into a little bit of a lower, more mellow instrumental bit, and then I generally go halfway through and I'll play the point where I generally have my repeat loop. So as soon as that drum comes in, that is when I will have my cue. As soon as that drum comes in, that's when I activate a 2-beat repeat loop. Now I use this to add a little bit of effect before we actually use that. And then I generally do it at this point because then I know the time in between starting it and how much I need to use the CFX to change it, but also whilst changing the beat loop on deck 1. Okay, there's a lot to think about when you're doing something like this. We're going to set a cue point there, and then obviously our final cue point on this track is going to be after that bit, exactly when it says that losing it part. Okay, now that we've set our cue points, let's now teach you how to actually do the mix. Now you can do this mix on any controller. I'm using the very basic CDJ-200, not CDJ, DJJ 200. I was trying to CDJ 200, I must admit. And we're going to start off by going to our starting cue points. So, for me, that's cue point B on track 1 and cue point G on track 2. Now notice, my G is a repeat loop. Now to do this, what you want to do is you want to get your beat loop going and then activate a cue at the start of the beat loop, and that will make it a repeat cue. Okay, so as soon as you click that cue, it's going to keep repeating. Next, we're going to move on to the software and we're going to set ourselves beat loop and beat loop so that we have access to the beat loops instantly, which is very, very important. Okay, some controllers have them on top of the performance pads. This one sadly doesn't. Okay then, next we are going to set up the controllers. So we obviously need to put deck 1 full volume, make sure that is in the center and ready to go. And then with deck 2, we need to set the CFX to about the 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock position, or yeah, around that point. You can go lower if you want more bass, but I generally do it there. That just gives me a slow fade up just below that point. So now it's time to actually do the mix. Okay, this is the exciting bit, being able to actually do the mix. So we're going to start off by simply playing the song. Now obviously I'm muting the song because I don't want my things to pick it up. So we're going to play the song and I will slowly start to introduce that track 2 like and it's going to be quite bassy. So let me just show you that. Now in the original mix that I can't remember now, I put Nam on screen, and his name's gone blank. In the original mix he didn't actually do that, but I did that in my mix in my video. So that I generally put around level 5 volume, so that's carry on. I'm DJing, I'm always watching the 2 tracks because I know where my cues are, and that cue, which is about to come up in a minute, is the point where I need to hit deck 1 to have a 2-beat loop and then deactivate deck 2's 2-beat loop and then start CFX into the 12 o'clock position, and also brings the volume of deck 2 up a little bit. So let's So we're just before where we're going to activate our 2-beat loop on deck number 1. Now, making sure that we've obviously got the beat loop selected, this pad right here is our 2-beat loop. Okay, so as soon as that cue comes up, we're going to press the 2-beat loop, and that will make it so that we can then loop and then deactivate deck 2's loop, so then we can start getting into that mixing portion. So now notice, as soon as that cue came, I pressed deck 2's beat loop, and then in a minute I'm going to deactivate, deck 1's 2-beat loop, and then I'm going to deactivate deck 2's 2-beat loop. So we're at that point, both of our tracks are now on a 2-beat loop. We don't want to stay on a 2-beat loop too long. So I'm going to play both tracks, and we're going to deactivate deck 2's 2-beat loop and then start CFX into the 12 o'clock position, whilst also getting ready to transfer the beats down on deck 1. Because what you want to do is, as you're CFXing with your one hand to the 12 o'clock position on deck 2's side, you want to start lowering the beat loop on deck 1. So you want to go from 2 beats to 1 beat to half a beat to 1/4 of a beat, and then we then are going to tap in a sort of rhythm the play and pause button, and then we should be doing that like a second or two before track 2 says it's cue line. And then as soon as it says it's cue line, we need to then pause deck 1, and that is the mix complete. So obviously I'm going to run step by step because that's a lot of stuff that you're going to need to remember, and it is quite tricky to learn. So let's go. So you can obviously hear that I'm slowly bringing that CFX up to the 12 o'clock position. It needs to be slow because it needs to last the duration of this drumming part, this kind of, I say drumming, it's probably FX padding part, okay? And in a minute, on the next sort of beat, I am going to start lowering the beat loop on deck 1. Then this is the bit where I'm not going to be able to pause it, so you're going to have to watch very, very closely on my upwards camera here. It's going to be important that you watch this bit. This is the bit that everyone gets wrong, and you're not going to get it first time. Trust me, it is going to take a few tries to get it. It took me a few tries to master this. Now, With that, I did actually slightly mess up, and you will mess up as a DJ quite often. I forgot to raise the volume, but it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really affect anything majorly. Now you noticed, as we got to that next beat, I started lowering the beat loop. Lowering, whilst also bringing the CFX to 12 o'clock position. Now, when I got to the end, after the CFX had been on 12 o'clock a few seconds, I then started the rhythmised tap of the play and pause button on the deck number 1. And that is simply the mix, and obviously you can continue to play that as long as you want, and and then get ready to mix into your next song, whatever song that may be. So now we're going to do this completely without stopping, and you can practice it. Okay, so that is the simple way of doing the James Hype and Daft Punk. Well, James Hype, yeah, that was the guy's name. That's a simple way to do the One More Time and Losing It mix routine by James Hype. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial video. I certainly enjoyed filming it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, follow the socials on screen, and I will see you in my next video. Don't forget to check out our YouTube shorts that post daily at 8 AM. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.